Welcome to this week's Spinfoil Theory. We're about to take a dive into the lore of Destiny the game. Specifically, we'll be giving a high-level scrutiny to popular, emerging, and outlying theories, then judging them. With that out of the way, let's put on our Spinfoil hats and get a little crazy. Here comes this week's show. Alright, cool. Ugh. And what I'll do is I'll just roll into the next one. So, welcome to the Spinfoil Theory podcast, everyone. This is your host, Taylor-B, and LadyLucida. How are you doing this week, Lucy?
Doing pretty good.
I guess it's the same week.
Doing pretty good. I know it's technically the same week, but
Same week for us.
pretty good. I'm very excited for Witch Queen comes out next week. Because this is recorded a week in the past, I still have not received my collector's edition. Hopefully, in the real world, I will have received my collector's edition.
I'll put an update in the show notes
Yes,
that you
put an
can see
update
if
in the
she's
show notes
gotten it
saying,
by release.
Yes. By this release, if I do not have my Witch Queen's collector's edition, I will have some choice words for FedEx, United States Postal Service. I don't know. However the package is getting to me, I'm gonna have some choice words for them because I just want my Hive Ghost. You guys know me. I love the Hive. I even have a little spot for it and everything on my shelf, and it's gonna look so good. But it doesn't exist yet. Not in my house.
So it comes. You can set it up on the psychometer or like on its own little stand.
Yes, I know that. So I'm just trying to figure out like how do I put it on because I have a space for it, and looking at how big it is, I think I'm gonna need more space for it. Or I can put the Hive Ghost.
Gonna need a bigger shelf.
No, I'm not gonna need a bigger shelf. I'm gonna need I don't know. I'm gonna need something. Like I said, it'll be a lot easier once I actually have it in my hands. I can be like, oh, it can fit here, or oh, it can fit here.
I can
or
dig
something. Yeah.
I can dig it. Yeah, no, it's when you get it, and I think I can guess as to why, but it is surprisingly light.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, like it's if you have one of the other like official release like Ghosts, like the molds. I guess not. I don't know about the old Dinklebot Frontier shell, but it like those are like solid. I guess vinyl. So like those are like kind of like have some heft to them. Like these are.
Not
Much lighter.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, not as much heft. That's probably better, especially if you're like trying to put it in the psychometer and move it around, stuff like that. So yeah.
Speaking of the Witch Queen's Collector's Edition,
ooh yeah,
we are continuing our discussion of the Collector's Edition Hidden Dossier. This is part 2. Part 1 was the previous episode, so if you haven't listened to that yet, go listen to that first and then come back.
It'll make more sense.
It'll make more sense, yeah, because we're kind of going through section by section, giving our thoughts on it and everything else.
And so as always, guys, if you have any like questions or anything like that, we don't always go super in depth and cover everything in the show, but we're happy to like help out, guide, and maybe flesh things out if you're ever curious or you ever have any just sort of what's the word there? Some head scratchers you're trying to get through and figure out. So always here for you.
Heck yeah.
All right. So where were we? We were talking about. You were talking about stasis.
Yes, there was stasis. There was
I think we had just covered.
Yeah, we were just covered Honor's message or quote request for clarified / updated stance on stasis users. We talked about that a little bit.
I say air quotes request.
Air quotes request because Honor's like, it should be like this. And then Ikora was responding to Honor, and she was all like, hey, maybe one of the choices is to do what the Traveler can't, and that's finding a balance between light and dark. And then,
I like it.
Honor kept pushing Ikora to like, hey, you haven't used stasis, right? Right? We could make a meme out of that.
it's, it's it's like our Lisbon one all over again.
It is. It really is. It's Honor, and she's like, you haven't used stasis, right? Right? And Ikora's like, no, of course not. I would never use stasis. I need to be flawless as a leader. I need to be twice as good, twice as often. I can't afford I cannot pronounce this word. Google, tell me how to pronounce this word. I am stupid. Indiscretion. Sorry. I can't afford an indiscretion like stasis. So you can cut that part out and just have
No worries.
I say it correctly this time. Hew. Anyways, the next part I think was really funny. The next part is Ikora. I think she's just talking to herself, or she's like previously stated. Ikora was working on a sort of like how the unveiling is like a voice for the darkness. She was trying to write some sort of thesis about the light. And the titles just get more and more ridiculous because she's just frustrated. It's really funny. So the first one is a Exegesis of Light by Ikora Ray. And then it's How to Understand the Light by Ikora. They're all by Ikora Ray. So, why the light is not boring. What illuminates us? Is it natural for guardians to prefer the new and rare, but let's be cautious about it? Everyone wanted a Gallahorn, but look what happened when you all got one. Or why mass tendencies in guardians' behavior can, in retrospect, be destructive. That one made me laugh.
I really like that.
I am not your mom, but sometimes mothers have good advice.
Tower mom. Such a tower mom.
This one's funny. There's a reason we switched from Edgewalker to Blade Dancer. Eyeballs widen. What the hell is an Edgewalker? I want one. Familiarity shouldn't breed contempt. Puppies, wheat bread, and doing what's right. Transgressive thrills and contempt for the wholesome. I feel like I would love that book. Why the need to commit violence in defense of life predisposes us to moral compromise by I can't find a good title. Like it gets more and ridiculous. Like when the truth is not in the middle, why the everyday need for compromise tricks us into the grand moral. And then it's literally a bunch of gibberish because I felt like she just bashed her head on a keyboard or something. Because it's just gibberish at this point. Guardians won't read this unless it drops an engram anyway. They'll just say, Ikora should have died instead of Cade. Cade would have been down with stasis, and throw it out. I hate philosophy and want to go back to the Crucible. Delete all of those things I wrote. No, this isn't a title of Theseus, just delete them all. By Ikora Ray. So, like, I feel like she's literally just talking to herself as she's, like, working through all of these titles, and she's just like, Guardians won't read this anyway, they'll just blah, 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 blah. I just want to go back to the Crucible, man, that was simple. And then she looks and she sees her ghost, like, basically transcribing all of this as titles, and she's like, no, hold on.
Don't record that.
Like, don't record
stop
that.
it. Stop
Don't record that. And then there's, again, more playful banter between Zavala and Ikora in between consensus, so government meetings, about them playing, like, I guess, space checkers or chess or something. And it's great. And then the next part is about the Glycon incident, which is very spooky.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, actually.
Talks about the Nazaneo Island and how there was
Ooh, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, all right, you can talk about that because I've talked a lot anyways. You lead the...
What? No.
I'm just like blah, 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 blah. I talk so much.
Dude.
But it's interesting one of the things they bring up is why is it that so many places touched by darkness carry a sense of memory. The nightmares we fought on the moon. These haunted growths on the glycon. The Taken, who are products of literally taking of the will. Even the unveiling lore, delivered in a clear, casual first person. The common element of identity, memory, and consciousness. While the light is impersonal and silent, it is everywhere and in all things, but invisibly so, and silently so. Why should memory and identity belong to the darkness? Perage claimed that it was important to understand why Guardians return without an identity. Do we understand why? If memory and identity belong to the darkness, does the darkness itself have an identity, a personality, a voice? Is this the same as the darkness itself?
It's really interesting about like the memory and the sort of like echo of what happened, especially on the Glycon. You know, because as you go through that mission, that dungeon, you have this you both like kind of hear whispers in the voices of people you know, kind of like you do in when you go to raid Riven, actually. You know, like that opening when she talks in like a bunch of different people's voices.
Yeah, definitely. That definitely is very. I mean, now with that at that point, Riven is taken, so spooky stuff.
Yeah. So even more like darkness themed paracausal. Oh man. I really want to talk about that too, because with what we know now about the sort of like crystalline nature of stasis, the way it's a byproduct of removing all the energy out of like a point of space-time, I guess is a good oversimplification.
Yes.
We'll bring Lettuce in here too to correct, but because he is that kind of scientist. But it's just really interesting to me that it can go so far as to hold intangible stuff from those moments, like feelings, reactions, memories, and evoke them. Because like when you're going through the things that you hear in the voices, for the most part, are like things that you heard before, just being used like differently in sort of like a weird soundboard sequence to kind of, in my opinion, like manipulate your emotions.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, yeah. Sorry if I sound a little farther away from the mic right now, everyone. My cat Robespierre was begging for attention, and I finally couldn't
Your
say
cat
no
was
anymore.
like, "Pet me."
Yeah, no, he needed full on lap time. So, yeah, now he's up here getting hair on everything. So, being a happy guy. But yeah, I agree. It's a little spooky, because that makes, and I'm sure you know this is a very like common take on this stuff, but it makes going through and looking at what's happening to Catabasis and Gilgamesh, how they're losing their grip on reality the longer they're there. When you consider like what must have they been hearing? Like how do you deal with voices in your head for that long?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And actually, that goes back to this has been a really good series of series that we've been doing, Lucy, because that takes it back to kind of what happened to Lisbon and the Kentarks, the Kentark 3.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's all coming together.
I love it when a plan comes together. So, yeah, big credit to you more than me on that one. But yeah, I think we're definitely reaching a focal point where whatever sort of deal we actually have with the darkness, I don't know if it's going to happen in Witch Queen, but I think that's going to come to a head.
Mm-hmm.
I think whatever we have at the outcome of that, I don't think it's going to be exactly like the user experience might be the same. I don't think Bungie's going to reinvent the class at this point, but the subclasses. But I think however beyond the final shape, however we're channeling these things, going like past that point, I think is going to be fundamentally different. I can't wait to find out, but I think we're getting some implications of how like darkness is like it's so interesting. It's a virus because if you think they use the word virus and they make the comparison earlier in the book to a physical like a bacterial, or not a bacterial, it's a virus, but sort of like a real world biological virus. That's the word I was looking for. But the way it gets into your system, the way it infects, I think the most people is one by it. If it overtakes a space and can cut off your sort of connection to the light. In the case of Guardians, I can stick to that because that's kind of how we experience in game. But the way it also corrupts through stasis and gift of powers and proximity to those powers, it's almost like an electronic, a computer virus getting snuck in with an untrustworthy executable. You double click the stasis exe, and then all of a sudden you got these darkness pop-ups everywhere.
Oh no, the darkness pop-ups, they're everywhere.
Yeah. How did I get these pop-ups? I'm not even on the internet. Yeah. Yeah. You heard it here first. The darkness drives people crazy with their invasive ad campaign.
Yeah, definitely, possibly. But then it goes more in depth to explain a incident on Nazino Island where Ikora visited this island. She was searching for something, and she ended up finding some, I would say some pretty evil things, but she couldn't figure out if it was like human evil, like like human violence upon other humans, or if it was like something darker, which is scary. I think it's scary. But something that she mentioned is she also talked about the Glycon, the lore books that we found about the Glycon, and how this all kind of relates to like the darkness having some sort of, there is a voice to the darkness, and something that you said that was really, really interesting. So this is one of her bullet points. The documents found aboard the Glycon Volatus attest to Callus's belief in a present on the far side of his contact ritual, an observer. Is there a wielder of darkness as we are wielders of the light? One or many? When Oryx called the darkness down into an ogre to speak with him, was this the voice that answered? Mara says there is a distinction between darkness and its chief exponent. And this is the second bullet point where she kind of continues, a single dominant wielder would suit the ideology of the darkness as expressed in the Books of Sorrow and the Unveiling lore, one leader who has either extinguished or subjugated all others, winnowed them down to only the most necessary and effective form. We are many guardians, a complex plurality of light against one dark agency. I think that makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So, there's lots and lots and lots of guardians, because, guardians, the whole light is about being complex, while the darkness is all about the one final shape. Ergo, it makes sense to me that there is a single dominant user of the darkness, and lots and lots and lots and lots of people who use the light to show complexity versus non-complexity.
I think there's another theme that works with this. I think there's another theme that's kind of coming up. I'm noticing, as we kind of go over this again together. There's a different level of connection between the darkness and the people who wield it, and maybe even interpersonally between people who wield the darkness. Though, like, jury's still kind of out on that part. But hear me out. In the same way that dejected ghosts can feel sympathy and identify with the krill in the hive from the Books of Sorrows, the darkness, it gets into your head through, like manipulation, and I think a lot of these cases, but it's through understanding the things that make you suffer, your regrets. It has... Yeah, it has this bond through pain that the light doesn't have.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who've been through trauma, especially been through trauma, and were lucky enough to have someone to go through it with, will tell you that there's a bond that's formed that's like unlike any other bond.
Mm-hmm.
To oversimplify. And I think that's a big part of what the darkness exploits. And I think that's a running theme in this book to try and pull that out, because I think what we'll find is, especially by the end of Witch Queen, and this is more of like an educated guess than a theory, so forgive me, Lucy. I know this is supposed to be the intro, but I think that's why you end up getting domineered by someone. It's the same reason why, a lot of people theorize how like cults of personality get formed and things like that. It's not that the people who got swept up in it are dumb. It's not that they're targets. It's that they get brought into this thing when they're at a real low point, more often than not. And then, like, people who felt like they had nothing suddenly have, like, people they, are told, like, their family type level of connection. And people go to bat for that. So, like, never mistake that they're victims. I think that's how you get caught up, in a similar way with the darkness. It's like getting caught up in a cult. Or the same kind of cult. And the whole reason we're going to find, I think, that Ikora was not only maybe unknowingly, maybe knowingly set herself up for success to be here in charge, leader of the Vanguard and the formidable group of guardians that they can get to go after it. The darkness can't tempt her. She has regrets, as we see in this book, especially in the margins where she talks to the reader, but she can't be brought in. Like, everything she is now is like logic. It's calculating, it's reasoned out. And it's not to say like she's completely immune to everything, but like, she's not going to be someone that the darkness is going to be prepared for in recalling past mistakes or like worries about the future like it did with Lisbon.
Yeah. Definitely. I definitely think everything's coming together. And I'm very excited.
Yeah. This is going to be cool. Very cool. Oh, man. Wait, so, sorry, I didn't mean to derail us.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Ikora then talks about, like, suffering is a common theme of the darkness. Because, we have Catabasis and Gilgamesh. We have the Dredgens. And they say VIP 3015. Now, that's someone we haven't heard of before. My guess is it's our buddy, and by buddy I mean not buddy. It's our not buddy named Krell, the Ghost Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't know who he is, that's fine. He's very rarely mentioned. He,
Wait, Crow isn't the ghost hunter.
Krell. I'm saying Krell, not Crow. Krell.
Okay, you gave me a heart attack there for a second.
No. His name is Krell, not Crow. Krell. And basically he, his ghost found him on the far edges of Mercury. His ghost thought Krell was resilient and old and unwavering and super smart. And his ghost even says, I kind of had a moment of weakness because, I'd been searching for so long that I didn't hesitate to res him. But if I just hesitated and spent a second to, quote, I might have sensed how tired and burdened and tangled his soul truly was, and I would have left him in peace. But he ends up basically he basically thought, Krell thought, if the ghost's sole purpose was to raise the dead, to kill in the name of an unexplainable forces, Krell could no longer let that happen. He would end the cycle. He would spare his brother and sisters in arms. He would let the dead rest. Years later, the ghost saw Krell again, clad in wretched-looking armor, dragging a chain of dead ghosts in the name of peace. If you are a ghost who have not yet found your chosen, let this be a warning. Krell, the ghost hunter, will end your search for you. If you are awoken and perchance have the answer he seeks, please do not keep your secrets from him. Your life depends on it. So, basically, that's who I'm thinking the identity of VIP 3015 is, because we know it's not Dredge and Yor. And because they specifically say personal encounters with VIP 3015. So, it's obviously a bad person. I mean, it could be, maybe it's Dredge and Yor, but they talk about the Dredgens before that. So it seems kind of, if instead of saying VIP 3015, why don't they just say Dredge and Yor and the Dredgens? Seems, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it the level of secrecy for that is, it's both interesting and at times confusing. It's like, it's like, this is already an encrypted file, but like, I guess, like, code words are for a reason too, in this type of thing. Like I agree. Especially when they can, in some places, like, refer to one another. Like, okay, but you didn't edit it out, but then you're still saying, like, VIP said such and such.
Yeah, definitely. But what I think Ikora talks that's really interesting is, quote, we've all heard of guardians who wanted to refuse further resurrection. But this level of despair on the ghost's part is unique. Talking about Gilgamesh and Catabasis.
Mm-hmm.
And if prolonged contact with agencies of the darkness has this effects on all ghosts, can we affect a massive failure of ghost morale? A general term towards pessimism and anti-natalism is a philosophical position that opposes birth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like, why am I being born? Basically, I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for this. Why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's what that is. And then basically Ikora finishes this out talking about how we need to find a way to show our ghosts and guardians that to not turn their back on the light, to still be good people. The next is probably one of my favorite parts in the entire thing. It's Shax sending Ikora a message, and it's probably my favorite part of this entire lore book, because finally, we get confirmation that in the Mark of the Great Hunt, Shax and Mara did not have a one-night stand.
It certainly seems that way now.
Yeah. Well, it's much more apparent, obvious. I mean, like, I didn't think they did at all, even when the lore came out for the Mark of the Great Hunt. I always thought people were being stupid. I mean, like, it could be read that way, but I don't know. I think I read it the way that it's now canon, I guess, that, you know, they just sat and talked. Like, Mara isn't exactly a super sexual person. It just seems out of character for her to call up Shax for a one-night stand. I don't know. Just for me personally, that just seems kind of out of character. I mean, yeah, she is power hungry, but not like that kind of power hungry, you know?
Yeah, I definitely see that, you know, and I think at the time it came out, there was, you know, it was suggestive language, and I think even if it was specifically just to be like a red herring, it was, you know, it was kind of, I think it was kind of meant to put a thought in your head. But
I disagree, but okay.
Well, I mean, I guess other than like they're trying to make you wonder how he drank his coffee, noting that the helmet stayed on based on the initial conversation, just like it didn't really click in any like that was one of the more plausible ways. With the explanation we get here, I think it's I agree with you because now there's context to that, but like otherwise, like, yeah, I'm not going to hurt everyone's imaginations with me going into like the different things I think it could possibly be. But yeah, like I feel like there's only so many ways you could take that without the further context.
Yeah. But basically what's really funny is they explain so as we've seen in Destiny 1, Shax was much more, I would say he was a little bit more reserved. He wasn't as insane. I wouldn't say insane, but like as enthusiastic as he is nowadays. And it was really funny where he literally went to behavioral therapy, and that's why he's now super enthusiastic about everything. And I just think that's great.
I really love it too.
It was great.
One of my favorite things about that whole part is he actually goes through and you realize that Shax is a much more considerate
nuanced
and insightful, nuance is a great word, person than I think his sort of persona would maybe seem like at first glance. And I really I really love that because it's true. Like back in D1, he was also a little like sassier when you lost.
He was all like, "You suck.
You
Get
can
better."
do better, Guardian.
Yeah, but like it's really interesting. He's like he said the answer talking about how Crucible has changed, and he talked about the answer was behavioral therapy, accompanied by a course of no optics. What's that? I'm gonna just Google what this word. Oh, basically cognitive enhanced. Oh, is a drug characterized? Oh, basically he took medicine, and that basically helped his brain out and helped him fight depression. So our boy Shax here, you see him, he's a big, strong, manly man. He has depression. He has stuff going on. Like, that just, like, you don't really see, especially in, like, media, you don't really see it talk about, like, men dealing with mental illness. Like, that's not really something that's talked about
Especially, like,
a lot.
very masculine men. In like, a lot of other ways.
Shax is probably the most masculine man. He is like so macho with like, he's like, you've seen how like big he is compared to like the player Guardian. He's like a head taller than us. He's this big macho man, and he's like, yo, I got depression, but don't worry, it gets better. Like he talks about, like by the end of the sessions, I was battering straight through the walls of the clinic in my excitement to show the world who I was. I visited city hospitals and helped children learn how to squeeze the illness straight out of their own shadows. It's just like...
It's so sweet.
As someone who, like, struggles with, like, depression and that kind of stuff, like, it just really makes me happy to see, like, that kind of characterization, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, we now know why Shax is now, like, super duper happy. Well, I don't say happy, but
yeah. Exuberant,
very
excited.
Exuberant and loud, I guess. It's because, before he was dealing with depression, and now he got better. And if he can get better, then you can get better too.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with getting help.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no shame in asking for help. That's basically the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was good on you. Just kind of having it as one of those. And what I love, it's not even like the focus of the conversation.
Yeah, that's like the first like 3 paragraphs is him explaining. Oh yeah, I don't know if you know, but I went to therapy, and that's why I've been a little bit more excited. And I'm like, that's great. The most of this focus is about him explaining what happened. He's like, have I ever told you about how I spent some time with Mara Sov? And he said this was before the Taken King and before he went to therapy. And basically, so this was before Taken King, before Shax kind of like dealt with his depression. And basically Shax kind of, they had a where they basically kind of talked about like their like what they wanted, not in like a inappropriate way, but like freedom. Like he wanted to be Mara knew she was gonna die. She knew, like, that's the only way this plan would work, is if she died. And she was kind of like, damn, I'm gonna die. And Shax is like, hey, I'm stuck officiating Crucible matches. This is terrible. I'm depressed. So, the one thing Mara and Shax have in common is they were both, well, in Mara's case, she was a little bit more than friends, but Shax knew Shiraido. And that's the whole reason why Mara summoned him. Because in the Maracena lore book, Shiraido basically worshipped the ground Mara walked on. in one point, she literally refers to Mara as a god. And Mara's like, no, 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 please don't. She's like, don't say that. Please don't. She wanted Mara wanted Shuraido and herself to be seen as equals. So they kind of drifted apart. Yeah. And Mara kind of kept her distance so that Shuraido could grow to be her own person and not be like in Mara's shadow, which is ironic, I think. But basically, they just kind of swapped stories about Shuraido this whole time, and the reason why he said he recited The Tempest by heart is because The Tempest is a play that talks about the longing for freedom. And so he tells Mara this play because, he knows The Tempest by heart. It's a good play. And then afterwards, Mara is like, hey, tell me about Shuraido. Like how you know her and stuff. And he's all like, oh, Shuraido. That's also he literally gave her a nickname of The Tempest. So, like, it all fits. It all comes together. It makes sense. But I think what's really funny is, so Mara tells him about, their time in the Distributary, where Shuraido had this whole quest to assassinate Mara in revenge for the Diasm and everything else. But what was really funny is Shax is like, hold on a second, that's not the Shuraido I know. On the Shuraido I knew, the Dragon Slayer, this is quote, the Shuraido I knew, Dragon Slayer, whose arrows pierced illusion, who would never hesitate to kill, no matter how beautiful her target. It's just like, he's like, there's some inconsistencies in this lore, which I feel like is a very much tongue-in-cheek way of, like, the writers calling themselves out. They're like, we're sorry, there's some inconsistencies here. We're sorry.
Ooh.
But
I didn't even think of it from that way. I thought he was kind of calling out the Mara Id and the Mara Senna for...
yeah,
know what I mean?
That's definitely... I was just thinking it, like, kind of outside of, like, meta, outside of the whole universe, but I just think it's funny that he's all just like, hey, there's some inconsistencies here, and Mara's like, oh, I see, you've noticed. And she's like, okay, I'll tell you the truth if you take your helmet off. And he's like, no, I'm not taking my helmet off. Screw you.
He knows the truth.
He knows. Yeah. He knows. He doesn't need to have her tell him. So, like...
one thing I really liked about this, too, is I was doing some research into it, and as far as I can tell, Bungie, in this passage, created a new, like, concept of love.
Yeah. They did.
Or at least applied like a concept differently to love in Pothos.
Yeah.
Which is really, and it's so perfect for Shax too. It's like this fiery like zeal for something like freedom, yeah.
And
it's
you go first.
I was just going to close out with it's really fitting and kind of amazing to what we were talking about earlier, his ability for insight and empathy.
Yeah.
Is he was able to pick that out of Mara?
That's saying...
From like some stories and that interaction. Yeah. He was able to see past the veil, and he was able to figure out something that goes all the way back to who Mara was during the collapse.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least who like she tells you about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, dude is very astute.
Yeah. I mean, like, I just really liked this message because, we get a lot more insight into Shax. We get some insight into what actually happened because some people were like, oh, it was a one-night stand. And other people were like, no, they just chit-chatted. And it's nice to actually have it be put to rest. Which makes me happy. And I'm glad that I was right.
Yeah.
Not to be
Yeah, yeah.
boastful, but I'm really glad I was right because and I guess that still means that Mara is now not. See, Mara isn't bi; she's a lesbian. Ha ha. Not that that's good or anything, but it's always nice to see more representation. There isn't a lot of bi representation though, which does actually make me a little sad now that I think.
I don't think there's any in Destiny.
There might
Not confirmed.
not come confirmed, but I know. I think Ikora might be bi. I'm not 100. Don't quote me on that. I might have to go.
Yeah, I want to say. Well. Yeah, there.
I'm not sure. It
It's
doesn't
just,
really technically
it's
matter.
kind of hard to tell with someone who had their emotions magically changed by a wish dragon.
Yeah, that is true. It's kind of hard to tell. And then what's great is Ikora and then at the end Shax is just like, "Hey, you know what? I never got a reason as to why you left the Crucible. Why? Why'd you leave the Crucible?" And she kind of explains why.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "I couldn't be a leader of the Vanguard and a Crucible champion. I had to pick." And also, it's very funny. At the end, she kind of says, "I could not afford to lose and be revealed as limited. But more importantly, I could not afford to win. What would they say if they knew what I could really do? The dangers I could be?" It's like, oh yeah, Ikora's kind of, I wouldn't say broke, but she's kind of overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit. But then, what's really interesting, I know I keep saying that, but this part is actually super interesting.
Not that the others weren't.
Not this one, but this is actually really interesting. This next part is a message from Fenchurch. I know.
Ooh, yeah.
The Fenchurch.
And Neville.
And Neville. Don't forget Neville. But basically, this is a continuation of a particular lore entry called. Hold on, let me find the lore book. Came out in No, not Shadowkeep. When did it come out? It came out in Season of the Drifter. It's from the Stolen Intelligence lore book, and it's called Fragment. Yes, it is Fragment, basically. Basically, Fenchurch basically found this shard inside a thrall's chest, and it was like this weird black fragment. He didn't know what it was, because remember, this is before the pyramids showed up. We don't really know. And he tried to transmat the fragment to his ship, but his ghost was like, "I can't transmat it." So he basically used the barrel of his sniper rifle to poke it, and he took he had his ghost do some deep scans of it, and he did a dumb. Instead of calling a fire team or something, he's like, "All right, I'm gonna touch it." Do we know what class Fenchurch is? He sounds like a hunter to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say his propensity for exploring and other stuff definitely seems on the hunter spectrum.
So Fenchurch, in his infinite wisdom or not wisdom, decided to pick up the shard with his bare hand. Well, I guess you're wearing gloves, but he picked it up with his hands, and he experienced a vivid hallucination. He stood over Mara's shoulder, and Eris as Mara was basically helping Eris, basically patching Eris up after she got injured, and And Eris said something in Russian, which I'm gonna look at what it means. Apparently in Russian it means pathetic. I am not 100% sure. I do not speak Russian. I'd have to ask a Russian-speaking person. But she basically says something.
Maybe we'll have that for the notes.
Something in Russian to Fenchurch, and then basically the hallucination was over. And it was 7 seconds. Everyone has been like, what the heck is this? What is this? Is this a vision? Is this something? No one really knew what this hallucination was. Like, is it like something from the dark future? We didn't know. Well, guess what? Now we do.
Yup.
And basically, he kind of talks to Eris and gets her side of things because she was there in the vision. And she kind of explains what actually happened, and it's rather interesting. Basically, this was before, but this does kind of bring up kind of a plot hole. Kind of. Because in this lore entry, this takes place between Forsaken and Shadowkeep. So, and we know because of when the fragment lore came out, it's actually between Forsaken and Season of the Drifter. That's when that timeline is. That's about, I would say, 6 months. We have a 6-month gap as to when this happened, basically. But
yeah, that sounds right.
The plot hole is that with this this event, call it what you will, Eris and Mara worked together to, with some help from Rasputin and the Nine, to destroy a pyramid. Now the problem is, it's kind of a plot hole, or I guess inconsistency, plot inconsistency, because in Shadowkeep, Eris acts as though the lunar pyramid, that's the first time she'd ever seen a pyramid before. So it's kind of a little bit of a plot inconsistency. I'm gonna just chalk it up to the writers. But I'm not, I can't really think of a way to, make this make sense. How would she wouldn't forget doing this.
Yeah, it needs, as it is, it conflicts. You would need more sort of connective writing to sort of say if maybe she means something that's not.
She might have meant, this, this pyramid is,
I'm actually seeing it,
Yeah. It's not really, it was also the Exo Stranger was helping. It was the Exo Stranger, the Nine, and Rasputin all working together, and they destroyed a pyramid ship.
That sounds cool.
But
I want to watch that vision.
I know, why isn't, I know this isn't the vision that Shiraido had of Mara cracking a pyramid open with her bare hands. That needs to be a cutscene, or I'm going to be really mad.
I was going to say, it's a nice one, though.
It needs to be a cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is, during this whole plan, Mara did not tell her Corsairs, that she didn't even tell the Techians about this plan. She didn't tell anybody. I mean, she told Eris and Exo Stranger and Rasputin and the Nine, but she refused to involve her own people. And I just think that's a very interesting characterization, because I guess according to Fenchurch was basically said that maybe Mara felt that it was time for the burden of sacrifice to fall on herself rather than her own citizens. Which, maybe that was the case. Maybe Mara only thought that she could do it. We do not know.
Well, that's interesting too, because it kind of makes me wonder if with current, this is also like public knowledge stuff, but with current like sort of teasers that Bungie has released at the time of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we kind of see the right people in the same room to where maybe that's how the ship gets cracked open in Savathun's throne world.
It's possible, but we're not sure. But what's really interesting is we now know exactly what Mara got out of the Dreadnought. She does have sort of, Oryx's power. Not necessarily the ability to take, but like his metaphysical... She got something out of it. Because basically, this is part of it. Also, they went to the dwarf planet of Eris with Eris, which made me laugh. Yeah, because basically Eris is explaining to Fenchurch what happened. The journey to the dwarf planet Eris was difficult for... I'm just going to say the planetoid instead of Eris, because that's going to get confusing, because there's also a character named Eris. The journey to planetoid was very difficult for Eris. Mara had charged herself with some metaphysical quality salvaged from Oryx, which made it extremely difficult for Eris to tolerate her presence. Mara was hold on, I am blanking on how to pronounce words. How do you pronounce words? Mara was reticent and snappish, probably most likely lingering trauma from her death in the similar battle at Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Eris continues to talk about it. But what's interesting is basically they're on their ship. I think it was the Exo-Stranger's ship. And, Mara went, basically, EVA, which is extravehicular activity, so she went out of the ship at one point, and she basically left the ship, went inside the pyramid, and died.
You know, in a way, it's kind of the second time she's done that.
Yeah, kinda. And then she ended up back in her throne world. Now, remember, Shattered Throne is still a canonical thing that happens every 3 weeks. So she basically spawned in her throne world, and Julian Kara was there, and she's like, "Hello, I am going to kill you, finally." And Mara's like, "Oh no, I'm in danger." But what Eris did is Eris ended up doing a hive ritual to basically pull Mara out of her throne world.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of crazy. And then, on top of that, they then decided to go to the moon, not the moon, but like the planetoid, to see like the damage. And then at some point, Eris got wounded, and that's the vision that Fenchurch saw.
Ooh. This is lending some credence to the, maybe that's how we cracked the ship. Maybe Savathun doesn't do it.
It might have been Mara. That's something I didn't really think about,
Yeah.
but then we didn't have this thing.
Mara and her league of extraordinary Earthers.
But what is funny is while they were wounded, Eris was like, "We might not make it out of this alive." So she did, she basically imprinted what they did on this little fragment and basically used hive magic and teleported it on the moon, and basically with whatever hive magic she did, she basically compelled the hive thrall to basically find the nearest guardian and hand it to them, and then they die, and then the thrall would die, and that's basically what happened. It's kind of funny how all of we got this random piece of lore in the Stolen Intelligence lore book, and nobody really knew what to make of it. And that was back in Forsaken era.
Yeah.
And now it's right before basically Witch Queen, and now we're finally getting the answers for it. I just think that's really great.
They're tying up those loose ends.
They really are. But what's interesting is that Fenchurch at the end of this is like, I have more questions now than answers, because basically there's now a debris field on the surface of the planetoid Eris, and he's all like, is this related to everything that happened? Did Mara actually destroy the pyramid ship? If she did destroy it, why hasn't she, exactly shared that information with us? One of the things Fenchurch says, quote, faced with the skepticism and distrust of so many guardians, a distrust that has persisted despite the Ex-Stranger's reports that in multiple possible futures, Mara died fighting alongside our forces in the final reckoning. Surely that basically Mara knows that Guardians don't exactly like her. So she should have shared the information with us to, gain some trust, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
But if she did destroy the pyramid ship, was it a one-off event that she will be unable to reproduce? Perhaps she had to physically connect with the pyramid to destroy it, or the pyramids have now rendered this impossible. Well, basically he goes through okay, why didn't she share this with us? That's kind of sus, I guess.
Yep. Fenchurch is a man after my own heart.
Yes.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it too, because it kind of fleshes out Fenchurch a little more, and Neville. But
yes, I love that.
It's definitely interesting, and it adds a level of depth to Mara and Eris relationship.
Yeah, no, it's nice seeing them interact again, and I hope with what we have seen from the teasers and everything, that we know Mara and Eris are going to have a role in the Witch Queen. So I hope that Eris at least gives us some context, or maybe explain what she was doing during Season of the Lost, because I know out of universe, real life reasoning is because the writing team felt like they had too many. They didn't want to include Eris because that's too many people, because they already had Ikora, Zavala, Petra, Crow, Mara, Savathun, Saint. That's already 7 people. They didn't want to have there be too many characters.
Getting into Lord of the Rings amount of characters in
pretty
one scene.
much, yeah. It's just it's getting. Yes.
But yeah, I get it too, and I'm glad they didn't just exclude her. They gave it a story reason, and they don't ignore how important she is to the story.
Especially to Savathun. She has a vendetta against Savathun because she kind of realized all of her problems is Savathun's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Savathun pushed Crota to open the portal, which led the Vex into Oryx's throne world, which led Crota to be kicked out, which then led Crota to eventually end up on our moon, which then led to the Great Disaster, which then led to Wei Ning dying, which then led to Ariana 3 and Eris making a fire team to go kill Crota, which then led to all of them dying, which then led to Eris losing her light and her ghost, crawling out of the Hellmouth, having to use an Ahamkara bone to, like, see the way out, quote. And then we end up killing Crota and Oryx, and, like, it's all because of Savathun that all of this bad stuff has happened to her. So now she is annoyed and wants to kill Savathun, which I totally get that. I would too if I was her.
It's only fair.
Like, I get that. That's fair. Very valid. But yeah, and then that's that. And then last we have... I'm not saying last, but Ikora responds to that, and basically explaining Mara has to, like, lie and deceive because that's just who she is. It's hard for her to trust people because, like, now that she's talked to the Exo Stranger, and the Exo Stranger has, like, future knowledge, not necessarily from this timeline, but other timelines where it plays out, and Eris betraying her, Mara's like, oh, shit. Maybe that's why Mara didn't tell her about what's going on this season, because she was afraid Eris might go crazy. I could see that. I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Honestly, yeah, and honestly, like, she seems more than just like someone who was like a thrall consumed by the darkness, at least in the dark future. Personally, I wonder if maybe she was being possessed. Maybe she became a vessel for something or someone.
Maybe. It's possible.
Yeah. Or there's so many. I have so many wonders about how they got to that point exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because basically,
you were saying?
Mara's whole thing is because of her advocating for the bomb logic instead of the sword logic. If your enemy knows how the bomb works, they can disarm the bomb. That's why she has to be so complex and distrustful of everyone, because, like, if people know how the bomb works, they can disarm it, and that's bad.
Yeah. And it's absolutely right too. Your best defense is secrecy.
Definitely.
It's your best armor. Oh man. Such a wild, as you guys can tell, this is just a wild book. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then
the next
is a reply from Ikora to her friend Chalco, who is a member of the Hidden, and I think the owner of Dragon's Shadow, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think there's some other, like, Chalco's Finery. There's some other hunter stuff. Also, if you get the collector's edition, the owner of the hidden sort of access card
is Chalco. That's cool.
That comes with it. Yeah. One of the things on there is there's a code that is redeemable. They've already been released, and then it says Chalco Young, agent designation, Cha-319.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it gives you the code for the emblem. So yeah, this is Chalco's card.
That's cool. And then it's really interesting. Like, basically this last thing, because Chalco and Ikora are, they're actual friends. They're not just co-workers. And Ikora is like, you see like a lot of Ikora's doubt in this. She's worried, like, how do we handle stasis? Do we just ban it outright? Do we do what we did with the Ahamkara and just, if you're using stasis, you're evil? Adios? Like, what do we do? Or we're literally, she says, quote, we are this close to losing them all. Every guardian, returning to the dark ages of warlords and factions. All that saves us is what little authority of the Vanguard still remains. Is stasis the hill we die on? Like, damn.
Yeah, it's a pretty the letter gives you a lot of insight as to like what is going on inside Ikora's sort of like stoic
Head.
emotionless
But
presence that you see in the tower.
it is kind of funny that, like, later on, she talks about, like, she feels like this is all her fault. Not necessarily her fault, the Vanguard's fault. Because the whole system they built, quote, a system, the popularity of stasis is a direct result of a structure of power. A system we built here in the Vanguard to I know the word. I just can't English right now. To incentivize our guardians to respect and obey. Rewarding for joining strike missions, bounties and milestones to qualify hard work, elite equipment for loyal performers. Everything psychologically calibrated to engage the guardians who might otherwise lap into useless fuge and vanish from the rosters of the active. We built this system, we benefit from this system, so we did not change it. Nowhere in that system is there any place for moral judgment. Nowhere is there any ethical instruction, no request for them to evaluate their ultimate purposes. Guardians do what makes them the most effective, because we taught them to do so. This is our fault. We made Guardians into soldiers, not warriors for good. We led them straight into the enemy's fold. All it had to do was offer a new and intriguing way to get that glimmer, that loot, that bounty, that victory. And it had them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, damn.
Yeah. It really it's in this weird way it's talking about like incentivizing
Yeah, I thought it
working
was
with the working with the last city.
I think it's funny. So, like, bounties and that kind of stuff are canon, too, which makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Because, like
rewards, loot.
Definitely. But what I think is really interesting is, you know how in the Red War there was the meditations? So you could go and replay story missions?
Yeah, I missed that.
Ikora literally mentions that, and it's funny. And why would we teach our guardians to question the righteousness of their actions? Guardians don't like doubt. I urge them to meditate on their past, and I thought that'd be enough. But even the meditations were just challenges to do it again, but better. I just thought that was funny. I thought that was a very tongue-in-cheek way of Bungie remembering about, oh yeah, we used to do meditations. Ikora used to do that, but then she stopped. And now
they talk about why she stopped.
And now they have why she stopped too. She's like, they're not learning from anything. They're just like, oh, let's do this, but faster. Do this, but better.
Yeah, it's funny. I once again, I love these little in-game, out-of-game tidbits.
Yeah, they're great. And
I like at the beginning of this passage, before we get too far away from it, she actually she kind of I think gives ghosts a great sort of nod of respect. She talks about Ghost Sight and like how they and it sort of comments on the relationship between the Guardian and the Ghost.
definitely.
And it's easily in Ikora's own way. Like it might be like one of the sweetest things she ever says about like ghosts or like someone who's not part of the conversation.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But yeah. So that's also a good one. But from the personal reply, we go into
something that kind of ties into this upcoming season of the Risen.
Oh, I agree. Ooh, yeah. Do you think the Hive Risen will have a similar relationship with their ghosts?
Ooh. I'm not sure. I feel like we could definitely better answer that question in Witch Queen. Like once we've like seen how the Hive react with their ghosts.
We crushed one in our hands.
No, I don't want to. I can't. No.
I mean, canon. You have to do it.
Well, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna have my fire team members do it. What I do hope they do, I really hope that they also have it where we can use Izanagi's burden to just kill the ghosts outright. Because Ada did that in the Dark Ages. She honed edged, saw the ghost, and went, "Pah!" It was more like a more chunky, like a choo noise, but you know how the gun sounds. Replicate that noise. Bang. Gun. Gun noise, go burr. But yeah, I think that'd be cool. Like if you use Izanagi's, you could do that, but it's like you don't have to use it. But basically, yeah. I'm really excited for the Legendary campaign. I recommend if anyone is doing the raid day 1, I don't recommend, it's required. I wouldn't say it's required, but like if you don't do it and you're doing the day 1 raid, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
So if you're not doing it, be a lot cooler if you did.
They also did say, depending on the number of fire team members you have, the more enemies there will be, which I think is a fantastic thing. Because it shouldn't be the same number of enemies regardless if you're 1 or 2 or 3. It should scale based on the number of people you have. So then, I wouldn't say it, feels the same, but it's, the same density per Guardian.
The same opportunities for everyone to,
Because, with it just being one Guardian and you're by yourself, it can be a little rough if it's, the same amount of enemies that, if you're soloing a Grandmaster or something, like soloing a strike.
Mm-hmm.
Strikes are designed for 3 people. If you're doing it by yourself, you're going to have not necessarily a rough time, depending on your skill level, but overall it's going to be a little bit annoying. There's going to be a lot more enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Versus this Legendary campaign, which, by the way, you can replay any mission whenever the heck you want. It's a similar-esque... Instead of having it on the map, covering the map, which that's a separate issue, but instead it's a little... I don't know if you guys have watched the Vidoc, where they kind of talk about it, or the TWAB, where they also talk about it. But basically how it's going to work is, you know how when you hover over for, let's say you're high enough, and you're with your buddies, and you want to do Grandmaster Nightfalls, and you have the Conqueror Seal, and your buddy has the Conqueror Seal, but your other friend, he doesn't. So because he doesn't have the Conqueror Seal, that means he can choose from any of the Nightfalls. It's basically going to be like that, where it's going to be the list of missions, and you can just select them from this list, instead of the missions being spread out. I mean, obviously the first time you do it, it's going to be spread out, but then afterwards you can just select whichever one you want, and you can replay them whenever you want. So if there's a really cool spot for a screen, for example, the beginning of the Presage mission is where a lot of Guardians take screenshots, or players, to show their drip, their outfits, their fashion. Because fashion game is the true end game in Destiny. I joke, but that's what a lot of people
true,
like.
Though. Ever since they took away the real Court of Oryx.
Exactly.
Ball is no longer life.
No, it's fashion. I'm sorry. But, so something like that, there might be a good, a cool spot to take a screenshot, or if you just want to relive the campaign, because as Bungie has said repeatedly, this is the definitive Destiny 2 campaign. They've said that like every single time they talk about it. So if they're hyping it up this much, I hope that it delivers. I was a little apprehensive, I'll admit, when I first heard about the campaign and we were fighting Hive with the light. I was like, wow, okay, sounds a little crazy. I can roll with this. But as they've, hype train, choo-choo, I've been a lot more excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes. So anyways, sorry about that little detour there where I ranted about the Legendary campaign and how it's going to be super great.
It's totally on brand for yes.
It is. The one thing I am sad, I am not sad, but sad, is they said the rewards for the Legendary campaign is an emblem and obviously the gear. The gear will help a lot. But I just want a Hive Ghost. I want my ghost to be a Hive Ghost. Like, I will literally give money to Bungie. I will throw money at, not literally throw money at the screen. I don't want to damage my screen. But,
I bet.
I will give them my credit card. I want a Hive Ghost to be my ghost. Because they already have the model for it. Hello.
I bet it's going to be the season pass.
No, the season pass is probably going to be
season
Cabal.
pass ghost.
No, the season pass is going to be Cabal themed.
Why is it going to be Cabal?
Because we're working alongside Keitel in the season to kill the Hive, the Lucent Brood. Like, we've already seen the seasonal armor. It's Cabal themed. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Taylor's grumpy now. Oh no.
I don't know.
More Cabal armor.
I just don't know.
But no, yeah, we've seen the armor, at least from the season. It's not like Season of the Chosen Cabal. It's like looks like actual like legionary-esque like Cabal armor, not like Season of the Chosen Cabal armor. It's like a different aesthetic. I mean,
I gotcha.
My hope is that they did say, we're getting a raid with Witch Queen the next season after. So not season 16, but season 17, we're getting a dungeon. And then the next...
Cool. And actually...
I just want Lucent Brood armor. Like, I will literally throw not all of my money. That's kind of ridiculous. I would give Bungie money if I could just be...
some of my money.
I would give them some of my money if I could just make my hunter look like a Lucent Brood hunter. Like, if going forward, eventually you could have, like, a Hive Guardian. Bye-bye, hunter. Adios.
Oh, no.
Yes.
What, your hunter? Oh, man. I think...
I would do that with my hunter.
You might have to... I think you might have to give up your hunter's manual.
I would get, but no, I'd be a Hive.
Club pass is revoked.
A Hive one. I'd be the Acolyte hunter. I'd still be a hunter in spirit, but I'd be a Hive one instead.
I don't know, man. It seems like a lot of hunters won't even let you sit at the campfire if you won't use stasis.
I don't know. I don't know. Can Hive Guardians use stasis?
Oh, no, I just meant, like, being a Hive one. Like, no. They wouldn't straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Okay, I'm going to jail. Bye-bye. Taking my Hive Ghost with me. But no. Like, that's what I'm, like, really excited about for Witch Queen is, like, further down the line. Not right now, because, I could see maybe by Lightfall we maybe be allying with... Okay, I wouldn't say allying with Savathûn, but like a tenuous partnership of some sorts, because while... You don't think so?
I think whatever we get from her, we take.
Interesting. Hold on. But yeah, I'm not sure at this point. We will have to wait and see. Because the thing is both us and Savathûn want the same thing. We both want to defeat the darkness. So I could see us allying for that reason, and then afterwards we go to being not friends. But in that tiny moment when we're friends, We could see Hive Guardians in the tower. And it would be awesome. And we could do emotes with them. And I would give them high fives. And it would be beautiful. I mean, my hunter already looks like a freaking Hive Guardian. Kind of, with all the thorn armor and the Omnioculus. And my little ghost that has the Hive runes. And I'm great. I am an edgelord on my hunter. When we get that poison subclass, and I'm not betting. I'm not normally a betting person, but I'll bet money on that. I'll bet $5 whole. I'm basically in the camp where I think we're gonna get a poison subclass in Lightfall. How, you may ask? I mean, Savathun still knows how to use hive magic, as we've seen her use hive runes and that sort of thing. So, my thought process is, Lightfall, the city collapses, yada yada yada. Savathun's like, yo, I can help you out. Here, have some hive magic, alakablam. I don't see unless the darkness gives it to us. Or maybe, because, we have Witch Queen, we get Void 3.0. Next season, we get Archer, Solar. And then the season after that, we get the next one. There's still one more season. There's still one more season after that where we don't get anything. So maybe we get the poison subclass then. Who knows? I'm just trying to figure out when we're getting the poison subclass. Either Lightfall or the season before Lightfall.
I can dig it.
I just want my poison subclass. Because then I'll run that on my hunter and literally nothing else.
Soulfire.
If I can just spread poison to enemies and just be a crowd control maniac, count me in. I think it should be a roaming super, though, because hunters only have 2. I'm counting Arc Staff as one whole super because it's not different between the 2. It's just Arc Staff version A, Arc Staff version B, and Arc Staff version C. They're all going to be combined into one super. But yeah, we'll just have to see, I guess. I just want...
Yeah, 6-shooter's getting there, but it's not quite.
It's sort of... Like, Golden Gun is kind of roaming. So I guess you could say Golden Gun is roaming. Spectral Blades is roaming. I just don't want a one and done for poison. I want to, run a... I like roaming supers. But Titans have too many roaming supers. They need more one and done supers. There needs to be a balance between roaming supers and one and done supers. I think it needs to be a balance between them. Because Titans, they only have... The only one and done super they have is Bubble. Everything else is a roaming super, and that's really boring. I hate it. That's why I don't use Stasis on my Titan out of principle, because I hate roaming. I know I just said I like roaming supers on my Hunter, but... That's because I have choices. I can choose if I want to do a roaming super. With Titan, it's roaming super Arc Edition, roaming super Solar Edition, roaming super Ice Edition, roaming super Grape Edition. It's just different flavors of the same thing. At least hunters have some variety.
I want a grape super. I want a roaming grape.
Well, guess what? Be a Titan. There you go.
No.
You'll just do Spectral
Blades? I don't
Blades.
think I will.
Okay.
I don't think I will be a Titan.
I don't know. Titans...
No, it's fun. It's fun when I do it. Thunder crashing and all that.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see how the other subclasses are going to change with Arc and Solar 3.0. But anyways, back to Cabal.
So, yeah, moving.
Keitel sent us a message to Ikora, basically asking in layman's terms. Oh, she says a very flowery language, but I'm going to explain it in not flowery language. Basically, Keitel is basically asking the Vanguard if they have any information about Callus, because we did our investigations aboard the Glycon. She did her investigation. She's basically saying, let's share, let's compare notes, let's see if you got something that I didn't, or vice versa, to help everybody out. And she says at the end, be thou informed Be thou further informed that any collaboration with the disposed callous, either covert or overt, shall be grounds for the greatest displeasure of the Empress. So basically, if you're secretly or not so secretly working with Callus, Kaito's going to be mad with you. So any shadows out there, shadows of Callus, you might want to start running. And then there's basically messages from Ikora to Zavala about what Kaito said. And it's very funny because Ikora jokingly says to Zavala that have you considered a state marriage to Kaito to solidify our alliance? And Zavala's like, have you? And I just think that is just such like good banter, and I think that's really funny. And then Ikora basically has her message back that basically saying, hey, there are like shadows of Callus. They act of their own accord. They are not affiliated with the Vanguard. And then basically, if we do become aware of Callus, we will not share this information freely. We want like some sort of trade. Like, okay, we'll tell you about Callus, you give us like the light suppression tech. Something like that. I just think it's cool that they're like, especially with the new season of the Risen, it definitely looks like we're shifting, instead of it being like just like a truce, that we're full on allies now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I really like that we're really formalizing and really solidifying the alliance and putting it to use, because up until now it's just been like it's been all for show.
Yeah, definitely.
At least from the Guardians' perspective, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that push is coming to shove and people are coming up to bat, and we're going to be going, ooh, dude, what if we go into a fight during the campaign and the drop pods hit our enemies?
That would be so funny. Oh my god, I would love it.
See how you like it.
Yeah.
And then you got like a buddy coming out with a minigun.
Like I could see that happening with not battlegrounds, or I'm assuming the new activity we get is more battlegrounds, but we're fighting the Lucent Brood instead of Kaito's Cabal.
Oh, interesting.
I could see that happening. I think that'd be cool because they said they're adding in battlegrounds to the Vanguard Ops, previously known as Vanguard Strikes playlist. And that could be a way for them to add new strikes with air quotes without actually adding new strikes.
Oh, I like it.
So I could see it being like battlegrounds, and it's like, oh, you're fighting the Lucent Brood now instead of the Hive. Or the Lucent Brood instead of the Cabal. Then the last, but certainly not least, thing in this lore book is the statistical analysis of Ikora, where basically Chalco looks at the power level of Ikora. Spoiler alert, it's over 9,000. And is like how basically what to do if like Ikora
scouter just completely exploded.
Pretty much. What to do if Ikora ever gets like compromised, basically, whether she like goes evil or is manipulated by Savathun. How would we and basically it goes through, and this is my favorite part, one of my favorite parts about this lore book, is Ikora ranks in the upper fraction of the 99th percentile of assessed warlocks on most available metrics of precision, restraint, and raw power. She is, in simplistic terms, a 5th Sigma Guardian, 1 in 35, 3.5 million. Given that millions of Guardians have been activated over the centuries since the collapse, and assuming that performance of Guardians on these metrics is normally distributed, we would favor about 10 Guardians of similar power to Ikora have existed. And basically the reason why she's so good...
Quite the endorsement.
...is because of her field experience and her Crucible training, basically. That's why she's so good.
I agree with that. It's the competitive nature that she had leading up to her wish from Madhir.
Yeah.
It's what propelled her and made her able to make that choice, because it's that sort of competitive, like, I need to get the edge.
Yeah. What's really interesting, though, is when they're talking about countermeasures, we are aware that combat between guardians is not a sum-zero contest of power. Context and tactics are decisive. Crucible champions dropped into the wilderness can be brought low by mere fallen skirmishers. Seasoned rangers may die from the first crucible aspirant to skid knees first into them with a shotgun. So basically, there are people who are good at PvP who you drop them in like a grandmaster and they're flailing like chickens. And you can also take seasoned PvEers, the raiders, the dungeon people, and drop them into a PvP match and they'll also flail like chickens. But Ikora is good at both. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because basically she's very good at processing information and acquiring, like, understanding everything. She's very good at that. So... it's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I can't...
I'm just glad that Ikora is getting lots more characterization. That's what I'm excited about.
Yes. She deserves it. She has been such an integral part to the story, even back in D1, even before she got so much depth of characterization that she's getting with this dossier.
For sure.
Because you go back to like Owl Sector
the
and
Owl
all the
Sector
little
stuff, yeah.
like secret stuff she did in the ARPs and yeah, man, or ARGs, yeah, ARP. So yeah, I just think I think this is such a great characterization of her, and the fact that it's done by someone who seems to be like one of her oldest or closest friends.
Yeah.
Someone who really seems to know Ikora really makes it all the more meaningful. Because what I really loved how like she starts out in the book kind of lamenting that the wish that she made changed her and changed her relationship with her ghost.
Mm-hmm.
But then she and the ghost are still like later in the book finding moments to poke fun and like, be human with each other.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, and so I really it gives me whole new appreciation for Chalco, but it gives me an even greater appreciation for Ikora. Yeah, it's such a great dossier. Such a great dossier. And I love the way it's presented, that you find out all these things in the margins and in throughout these selected communications about Ikora, but it's really the subject matter of each thing is not about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Absolutely love it. So yeah. So like I said last episode, I guess, guys, up there with Kate's journal.
Definitely. I really liked it. I thought it was really good.
This is the second part two is long. That's okay.
We can always split it in half.
I think it's one of those things where we're around like 1.5.
Okay.
So I might just keep it there, but yeah, we'll see. In a good way. This has been awesome. I really enjoyed running through this with you, Lucy. But you got any final thoughts on the dossier?
I think it was really good. I liked that they, like I said in the previous part, they cleared up a lot of misconceptions about Ikora, about Shax, about like everybody. And like, I always thought it was funny that they explicitly say, millions of guardians have, there are millions of guardians, but we haven't retaken the solar system because, quote, these complaints come from the same people who ask why we haven't reconquered the whole system with our vast strength, forgetting how many Guardians are either in, basically, exhausted, still working on mastering their first subclass, which means a lot of them are new lights, or already committed to the protection of populations and resources here on Earth. Basically, we have a lot of Guardians, but a lot of them are like babies and don't know how to do anything. So we may have millions, but like a good majority of them are babies and can't even barely summon a golden gun.
They're just learning about their little subclasses and conceptualizing how to use their light and supers and
What's
figuring
a super?
out grenades.
Exactly. Like, they don't even know what a super is. But
learning which jump they like best.
like they're babies, basically. They haven't figured anything out. But yeah, I think fixing a lot of like the misconceptions and explaining a lot of the things, I think that's probably my favorite part. Or favorite thing about this lore book. What about you, Taylor?
Same. I really like that it fleshed out a lot of questions that the community had speculated over. I really like that it gave me, it gives new insight and appreciation to Ikora and some of the characters like
Around her.
that tangentially work with her. Like, yeah, like I feel like I've learned more about Fenchurch and who he is. And I mean, for guys, like that's a character that started off as like offhand dialogue by Tess when you were in her menu.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that's come a long way. Like they're using every resource. The writers are to my delight. They're really just making everything like a living, breathing world. So yeah, I really like that. I really like. This is gonna set up. Tamir, Lucy, I highly recommend you guys go out and read this. And if we're allowed to, we'll link to the Google Doc, or some sort of resource for it. But read it.
Definitely.
It's going to make the campaign
A lot
more
better.
meaningful,
Yeah.
more accessible. Yeah, 100%, a lot better. So yeah, highest marks. Go read it. Treat yourself.
Yeah, definitely. We'll post. We'll have the link to the transcript, or if you want to read it like picture-wise, like we have that too. We'll post both
We'll
versions.
have options. Yeah.
Because some people
So,
they
alright.
just want to read it and search for things. Other people they just want to like read it like how it's written, which I get that. But yeah, do you have any? Do you want to like start the closing?
I was gonna say, yeah, my cat will not. He's broken into the room twice now. and
He's broken into the room.
Yeah, he's a cat burglar.
He's a cat burglar.
But he wants attention, and
You're like, I can't do this anymore.
yeah, I can't say no. Yeah, let's move into closing on this one here, and yeah, this was a great one. We great going through the material with you, Lucy, and yeah, I'm excited for things to come. And the next part in this series, guys, will be some theories and thoughts gleaned really from the dossier. So yeah, if you get the opportunity, and we'll be sure to link, definitely go check it out. Okay, so Lucy, you got any like shout out final thoughts? Just for like life in general.
Shout outs. Shout out to again my raid team for being a bunch of Pogger gamers, making me excited to play the Witch Queen raid, because we don't really know anything, but I'm still excited.
Hype. I'm gonna give a shout out. It is February, so all I'm going to say on my soapbox there is go lift up some Black, some African American creators, uplift their voices, and yeah, listen. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that is my shout out this week, and yeah, everyone out there, stay safe, take care of yourself, inside and out.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us again. Bye-bye.
Toodles. That's off, Guardians. That's it for this week's discussion. Have any questions or comments about this episode? You can reach out to us on Twitter at Spinfoil Theory, or write us an email at spinfoiltheory@gmail.com. If you'd like to read our show notes, check out articles, listen to past episodes, and more, be sure to pay us a visit over at our website, spinfoiltheory.com.
The Lore Network.